Okay, right. Hello everyone, this is Charlotte and this podcast called Chatting in Cars. I know I do this at the start of every fucking podcast and it's probably getting incredibly annoying as much as it is for me. This is a podcast where I talk about random topics as I drive to work. It's only going to be a short one hopefully, as it's 30 minutes I'm supposed to be taking, but I tend to gun it. So hopefully we can get there on time and nobody gets run over or hit. There is a lot of swearing in this, and I do talk about sensitive topics, hence the disclaimer at the start. So if you don't want to hear about that kind of thing, I suggest to change the channel or don't listen to this, being that you're an adult, and that's the rating that I put this at. Mainly because I don't want my kids finding it when they're looking for Pokemon card information. Topic for today is, what did I do? Expensive taste. I've got memory like a sieve. I have no memory whatsoever. I literally just looked at that before I turned the freaking camera on and forgot instantly. It's like when you look at your watch. You go to look at your watch. I don't have a watch, I hate watches, but and then you have to look again because you're like, what the fuck was the time? Is it because I'm over 30 or the autism or the PTS? I don't know. Right. Expensive taste. I have a problem with materialism myself because I grew up in a poverty cycle environment. There is a push to get out of the poverty cycle, but there's also a humbling of egos when it comes to being broke. My parents raised us not to talk about money because, was that a Simply Red song, money's too tight to mention. It's like, yeah, we don't talk about that shit. That's a good band, by the way. That guy's awesome. He looks like a leprechaun, but we're not going there today because we're running out of time and I'm heavily caffeinated by coffee. I could just rant for ages. But growing up, money was just, you don't talk about it because you don't know who's got it and you don't want to hurt someone's feelings and you can chase it, but keep it covert because you don't want to, give away your position and there's always a competition sort of thing element between it. Stutter's kicking in, it's Monday, this is not good. Between others searching for it. We also grew up in an area where there was a lot of people breaking and entering and crime, fair amount of crime, low socioeconomic areas. So of course if you make it loud and proud that you've got money, you're paying someone else's rent next week. So you don't want to stick your head above the trenches and make a great big show about you've got wealth. People who tend to be materialistic want to obtain this money or wealth or whatever to garner some kind of position in society where they can show off and peacock supposedly their achievements. Sometimes they take it too far. Like I understand people who work fucking hard to make a coin, and they like to be proud of themselves. Like I wear a shit tin of jewelry. I know that because my kids give me shit for it. I was like, why are you wearing so much jewelry? It's like, because I like it, little fuck. And I'm ASD, so let me hoard my shit. No, you don't say that, because they're usually around 5 or 6. So it's probably not best to tell little kids that. Anyway, but, I come from a poverty background, so the weight of my achievements are in my physical things I can touch and feel. I don't go so far as to say, I want a big house and a mansion and all that shit. I'm happy with just the smaller things that I can visibly see in the here to now. And, I've worked for this. I know what I can do. This is a confidence boost for me. But there are other people who will go out of their way to put themselves into debt to try and, keep up with the Joneses. If someone's got like a Navara, which are an expensive car, my brother's got one. Don't get me started on that thing. I hate those things. But he did it to fit in with the people in the environment he chose to live in. Like he lives in a slightly better off area. It's a very leafy green suburb. He's got a big house. I wouldn't choose that house because I've had to house sit it and I don't feel it is secure at all. I can point out the entry points of where people are going to break in. I can tell you how people are going to rob you. But that's because I lived in that kind of environment growing up. Now he saw that situation where he was growing up in the poverty cycle and he said, I want to do better for myself and my family, so I'm going to go work my ass off, which he did, but he's also in debt and we've had that discussion before. he's partly killing himself just to obtain these things as well. But it's what his wife wants, and he's chosen to stay with her, even though she's like, she's got an idea of what she wants her life to be, but she wants him to work for it. I don't like that. She's a nurse herself, so she could contribute, but she's decided to have the kids, so they're still like quite young. So once they start school, I'm hoping she starts really picking up work and they can work together. But if she's expecting to stay at home and just live off his wage, it's not going to work, because that's expensive taste done wrong. There's no way his teacher's wage could carry the full burden of that house, that car, it's like that lifestyle, because she wants like trips back to Germany every 2 years with the kids. That's like 4 fucking people traveling back and forth every 2 years. That's a hell of a lot of money. So I don't know what she's got in her head where she thinks that's sustainable, but that's the idea that she wants. He's going with it because he loves her. Whether it's love or codependence, I don't know. Because he had the same kind of background as me growing up, where you're sort of shooting for that emotional stability in someone else, and you want the love and affection that your parents denied you. And it's a clusterfuck of finding yourself in fucked up situations, quite frankly, where you just sort of settle for less. I didn't settle for less. I left 2 people already. I'm willing to keep going with this shit. So I will find the one. I don't know where he is. I'm pretty sure it's a him. Even though I do go both ways, I'm pretty sure it's a him. When the circumstances meet and, fate dictates, it will work, hopefully. But, he's walked into this sort of expensive taste arena where he can't really keep up because he's constantly got no money to make her happy. And I don't know how sustainable that is, but it's definitely expensive taste done wrong. Now, if you're willing to work your ass off to invest in something that's going to be worth something in the long term, that accumulates value and wealth, which is what generally old money does. They don't just buy shit for the immediate future, they look to invest for the future, long term. What's that analogy about planting a tree the next generation will see? There's a saying in that. It's like, we don't plant trees for us to enjoy, we plant trees for the next someone else to in the future to enjoy. There is a saying, I can't say it, I'm not that eloquent. Plus I'm hyper caffeinated and I've got a slight headache because of a lot of cloud cover and humidity. I always get headaches with that. Does anyone else get that? It's like it's overcast and the pressure and you're just like, love this side today. But seasonal something. I don't know. I'll Google it later. Love Google. It's got all the answers. Not all the answers, because there's the dark web. We're not allowed to touch that because it's bad boo-boo. Boo-boo? Juju. Anyway, heavily caffeinated. So, okay, so you don't want to walk yourself into that kind of experience. I mean, I tend to live within my means. I don't like to overspend. I like to be... at the moment I'm being quite Spartan because I'm working towards a project that is a very big project that needs to happen in order to promote more sustainable long-term views for how I want to live my life and stuff like that. So I don't mind taking the hit now in order to make sure it's there when I need it in the future. I could quite happily just, half-ass it and use all my money now and live quite comfortably and never had that concrete thing that will help me promote further growth. You can either live in the now, or you can look at the past to manipulate the present to look into the future, which is what I'm intending to do. I don't do the live in the now thing. I've seen too much. I've seen people get very slack and ignorant about, historical events which are reoccurring currently, which they just can't be asked prepping for because it's inconvenient. And it's not a nice example of things that happen. And they don't want to admit that they happened, but they could re-happen. You get my drift. It's when COVID happened, it was Spanish flu all over again. We did the Spanish flu. Did anybody learn from it? I don't want to use masks. We've already had the Spanish flu. That was your example. That was your warning shot. Here's what we need to do. And then somebody kicked up a stink about having to wear masks or get vaccines and shit like that and distancing. And I don't want to do all that. It's like, fine, die. We've done this. You've had your warning shot. Listen. Dumbass. We've done all this. Most of the things that we are facing today, like wars and famines and all this kind of shit, we've done already. Just nobody wants to acknowledge that it happened because there's an unpleasant feeling attached to it. Everybody's just afraid of feeling bad. It's like, harden the fuck up. Look at what happened. Fix it now so you don't have to do it in the future. It's like, why is that hard for you to grasp? Bugs the fuck out of me. I feel like there's just a shitload of just wimps. It's like, I don't want to, it makes me feel bad. I don't want to fix my relationship because looking at the bad things, it makes me feel bad. So what? You can fix it now and never feel bad again. I want the immediate gratification of lying to myself that it could work. What the fuck? Oh my god. No, anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. There's so much behind that statement that I could go into. But the expensive taste, like, materialism is not the greatest thing. And it's not permanent as well. Oh, Navy, hello. My ex-husband was in the Navy. I've lived with Navy guys, actually. You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. It's not permanent. These people that strive their entire existence just to build up wealth and accumulate it can be dropped in a heartbeat. You can go bankrupt in a heartbeat. Someone fucks up your taxes, you've lost it all. There's some kind of business glitch and you've fucking lost your business. There's so much that could happen that works against someone who has, expensive lifestyle tastes. And then you've got all the people repossessing all your shit just to make amends financially with, people who have come to take your shit. So that makes sense. They will repossess your shit to cover the debt that you created. And it's part of building a false economy as well. If you've got expensive taste, you are telling, like credit cards, for example. I went into credit card debt because I was heavily relying on my credit card to cover my expenses when I left my ex-husband. I was 10 grand in debt. I managed to clear it in 2 years, but that was living through Spartanism, which I'm doing now. Just denying yourself a lot of shit, using what you got, and recycling and not wasting, and all the general practices we learned when we were living in our poverty cycle. I got myself out of debt, and now I'm reliving those experiences, or reassessing and reusing these skill sets. I call them skill sets, to push myself forward into getting more stability at this point. I'm not in debt at all. I'm actually doing really fucking well, but surprisingly. But you could lose it all in a heartbeat, and people just don't understand that. It's insane that people are pushing so hard for things that they can't keep. Credit cards are a prime example because you are saying, I can pay you back, when realistically, can you pay it back? I mean, you used to go to prison, debtor's jail in Victorian. Was it Victorian era? Or before that, Georgian era? You used to go in debtor's prison because you were, borrowing money against your better judgment or something like that. Which is now the equivalent of credit cards and payday loans. It used to be illegal. If you didn't have the money, you weren't allowed to borrow in that time period. But now they've legalized it in the form of credit cards and payday loans and shit like that. And people are just clicking on that it's not a good idea to go with that. It's very much a case of, hey, police car. Very much a case of people just sinking into debt because they want to live this lifestyle that's sort of projected by people around them, or they want to fit in with particular groups, or they see these celebrities where they live in these particular lifestyles. Now, I know for a fact celebrities are overpaid for what they do. It's like, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. Because I work hard, yeah, so do doctors. How is a doctor's wage different from your fucking wage? It's like, I don't get... Doctors are actually saving lives. You're just jiggling your tits on a screen. I don't see how... I don't see the value in, jiggling tits. I would rather see you cure AIDS. It's like the priorities just aren't there, which just shows how much society plays into vanity and vices. Where a doctor is not as valued as someone with fake tits. It's like, what the fuck? This person is literally saving lives. You've got an OnlyFans. Why are you earning more than that fucker? He deserves, or she deserves the money at this point. They, them, deserve the money. It's ridiculous. The priorities in the society is completely fucked up. Why are we glorifying this? That bugs the fuck out of me. Hello, Laurie. You can have that lane. I'm not going there. That looks like a big petrol tanker that I just don't want to collide with today. Final destination? No, thank you. No trucks with logs. He's a big boy too. A couple of trailers there. But it's all fucked up. I mean, you know, in America at the moment there's a big kicking up a stink because teachers aren't getting paid enough. And even if they were getting paid enough, it's still a stressful job. And realistically, you need to cut down the class numbers and build up the resources they can use. That'll alleviate a shitload of stress, and you'll have a lot more teacher retainment. You also need to encourage the parents to start giving their kids fucking manners at this point, because they're just mouthy little fucks at this point. And I love kids, and I went into teaching because I love helping kids. But the manners on them at this point, and it's not because I'm getting old, because I'm still quite young relative to most of my peers. And I'm sitting there going, you're just not bothering. And then you're glorifying the behaviors where attitude. It's like kids now have attitude, and it's cute. And you're sitting there thinking, I used to get my ass kicked for even looking at my parents. And now you're glorifying it and saying it's cute. So the manners have gone out the window. Nobody's being, I want to say differential. Is it differential? Where you respect people who are maybe know more or have more. Not have more, you shouldn't respect people just because they have more. Maybe they have more, but they're willing to show you how to have more. Humbly, respectfully. Oh, look, another semi-trailer. Fuck me, we're on point today. That you should be looking after each other. But the attitude is one of disrespect, where they don't appreciate that they're getting access to a better lifestyle choice because their parents don't value the education system. It's like, oh, I hated school when I was growing up. Why should you respect it, even though it could potentially give you a better life chances and lifestyle? Fuck the police. You're sitting there going, wait, I'm not the police. I'm trying to help your kid get an education so he gets a decent job and gets the fuck out of the gutter. You know, that's one thing that pisses me off about teaching, is these parents that don't bother taking their kids to school. We get a lot of truancy in the low SES areas because the parents just don't give a fuck. They don't value it. They don't think their kid should have to turn up if they don't feel like it. Suddenly there's a lot of kids that have developed anxiety about turning up to school. I'm sitting there, well, you can tell it's a shit show from the start. Of course they're not going to want to go. I mean, school for me was a saving grace because it was safer than the home I existed in. No one hits you in school. No one shouts at you. No one screams at you. No one bullies you. Not unless it's kids your age. And you sit there and think, it's a better environment at school than it is at home. I love this. I haven't cried once because of a teacher. Meanwhile, you're rocking up to school crying because your parents are being assholes on the way to school. So you're like, fuck. I spent a lot of high school crying in the girls' toilets. The teachers must have thought I was high. I used to turn up to school with like red eyes and shit. Smoking weed in the toilet? No! I just got a parent. It's bullshit. I hate my parents. And you sit there and you think, oh, it's just a teenager thinking that. But at the same time, it's like abusive parents during high stress times, TETR, trying to get into uni, mixed with an eating disorder, mixed with autism as well, mixed with, you know, there's so many things that fucked up in those last couple of years of my high school that made the experience difficult to progress in. And yet I still got into uni, surprisingly. I didn't die from my anorexia. I did try to commit suicide, but yeah. In Monty Python terms, I got better. These are dark jokes. Stop taking... Some people take it seriously. Some people use humor to alleviate the stress associated with dark issues. I do. It's like, because I've been there. I don't know, if you don't make a fucking joke, everybody's going to be sad and you'll probably make the situation worse. So we're not devaluing the experience or the aspects of things like suicide. I'm just saying that having been there, you got to do something with it. You can't just sit there and wallow in it. So it's no less serious because I'm taking jokes about it. But having been there myself and recovered from it, I hate this road because everybody turns off. It's no less valuable for cracking a joke about it. Same as, you know, like your parents kicking the crap out of you. We all make jokes about that. If you've come from that environment where your parents were abusive, yeah, we want to talk about it in a respectful way, in a serious way. We often like to discuss it because we're trying to alleviate the stress of our own experiences whilst giving awareness to it, so that kids who are going through this time period facing the same shit know that they're not alone. done it, we've survived, we come out better for it. It does build resilience, but in a fucked up way. There's a psych term for it, something like negative, I want to say negative gearing, but it's not. It's not. That's property management. Something about that. But in a negative way, it reinforces it. It does make you stronger. And whatever doesn't kill you does make you stronger. And sometimes it does give you severe trauma, and you work through it, and you share your information with the others. This is what I did to cope. This is how I overcame it. You can do it. You will be all right. It will be all right. And that's what most kids need to hear these days, which is why I'm working with low SES kids. They're coming from some fucked up backgrounds, and they've got the parents who are complete assholes, and they pick them up and they got like meth teeth and shit like that. I'm going, I don't want to hand you back to this person. I don't. Come home with me. I live in a 1-bedroom flat, but you can live in my kitchenette. It'll be fine. I'll give you marshmallows. That could just be me trying to relive my childhood fantasies of the faraway tree and being silky, but I don't know. Come to my house, we'll eat pop biscuits, it'll be alright. You never have to go back to that meth den again. I don't know, but it's fucked up. But we want to build resilience in them, knowing that this is not a permanent state and you don't have to reproduce this lifestyle when you grow up. That's why we make jokes about it in a roundabout way. It's not as bad as it could be. It is very serious, but it changes, and you can get better, and you can get out of there, and you can go forward. But my kids are, at the moment, to wheel it back to expensive taste, my kids are living at the moment with this idea of TikTokers who are making a mint, or OnlyFans. My kids know about OnlyFans, and I'm sitting there thinking, this is essentially porn. Why do you know about this? It's just like, growing up, this is not a topic you should be giving to kids to handle. This is where the early sexualization of kids begins, because they think I can make a shit ton of money. And you got like 14, 15-year-old girls going, I know how to make a shit ton of money. I mean, traditionally in America, for example, it's being a stripper at that age. That's not very nice, is it? No. That is the very wayward version of making money early. One-off. But at the same time, I don't encourage it. It's disgusting. My kids are growing up thinking, this is quick money, I can do this. The alternative at the moment in this area I'm walking into at the moment, because it is my old neighborhood, I'm walking back into a low SES area, is to sell drugs. There's meth in the area, we know that much for sure. My kids know what meth looks like because they make jokes about it. And I had one lesson last year where my kids were, they were scraping chalk to show the process of erosion, essentially. They were scraping chalk. This is what erosion is. This is what it looks like. It's very basic shit. They haven't exactly got the resources to work with that much. So our lesson's a bit antiquated compared to some of the better off schools. Show me erosion. Show me wind erosion. Fuck you. It's science. We're learning. But in that, they were making little baggies of so-called cocaine. And I'm going, first of all, none of y'all can afford cocaine. That's just ridiculous. All right, we're making meth. It's like, don't do that. And some of them, it's funny, I'll give you credit for that, but it's not very ethical, is it? And me as a teacher, I'm supposed to be the grown-up here and say no. I admit I laughed. I shouldn't have laughed. But my kids are a fucking riot. And we've all come from that background where someone says like something, off key, and you go, but you're not supposed to laugh, you're supposed to go, that's very wrong. That's very wrong, don't do that again. But you gotta have a sense of humor with kids, because they come out with the weirdest shit. Like the weirdest shit. But they're looking at TikTokers, and they're looking at OnlyFans, and they're saying, I could do that. It's like, you could, but you shouldn't, because it's unethical. You should be going to school, getting an education, becoming a doctor or a lawyer, something well paid and respectable, because at the end of the day you're going to lose your self-esteem and self-respect doing this shit. But I'll be rich. It's like, that's not how it works. You can have a lot of money and still have low self-esteem and low self-respect, because it doesn't translate. The internal stuff doesn't really translate to the tangible 3D objects. You can have a fucking Rolex. You could lose that fucking Rolex because someone who's got a bit of a sharper mind could just come up, fucking take it. It's like, someone who's not exactly as nice as you, which is the kind of area I grew up in, would come up and take your shit. So, and you're all like, oh, but I earned it. It doesn't fucking matter. They took it. They're gone now. You're going to call the police? It's like, you can call the police. You can file a report. They're never going to get caught. They're never going to get caught. Can you remember what they look like? All right, we'll take your details down. We'll do a police report. Send the coppers out looking for them. It's gone by like lunchtime, man. It's like, you ain't going to see that watch again. Ever. It's like, oh, but I filed the report. I did the right thing and I earned that watch. It's like, fuck off. This is why we don't stick our head above the trenches. If you've lived in that kind of environment where anyone's ever had any money and suddenly it's gone because some arsehole stood up and said, I want that, you don't bother after that. You're happy to live more humbly, more sustainable, living in an environment where you're comfortable, but it's not showy, flashy. New money, for example, likes to be flashy. I remember when the mining, like, because in our area we got a bunch of FIFO workers. These are fly-in, fly-out workers, where they, what are you doing, Diggit? Oh, you're causing a problem. Idiot. He's just tailgated what is essentially a crane and expected the crane to move. Now, crane's working on the equivalent of a two-stroke engine, as far as I can see. There's the speed they're picking up, 0 to 60 in 20 minutes. So I don't know why you bothered doing that, you idiot. Oh my god. I miss Top Gear. Like the old Top Gear. Anyway. Random tangent. But my kids are... It's like you don't get to keep what you get. So you live humbly. But they're still seeing... It's the mass communications. They bug me. Old money don't bother doing that. Just get on with it. So there's a downside, obviously, to being materialistic. People who are materialistic, often who do achieve wealth, are often put on a pedestal. They're also deified near enough because they've accumulated all this wealth. But there's also, you know, the chance that they have feet of clay and they're willing to fall because of the ways they got their money. Look at Epstein. I'm pretty sure he was a teacher or something before I went heavily into the pedophile ring. Ew. Which doesn't speak volumes for my job, really, does it? I think he was a teacher, which is horrible because you'd be working with kids all the time and you wouldn't know. But he, you know, he went into that side of things and he thought he was safe because he got to a level of social standing because of the wealth he was accumulating, because he collected enough dirt on enough people, which is essentially what I think Trump's done, which is why his wife stays, when realistically you can tell she doesn't like him. She just wants to divorce him, but he's obviously got dirt on her. What is that? But they get high enough on the ranking, they think they're safe and protected from it. Look at Prince Andrew. Same deal. He's like, I'm covered by the immunity that the royal family has. It's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. Because the media still got hold of it. Because, you know, someone still pulled out Epstein for his antics. The money didn't help. It made it worse because not only did it put them on a stage and a platform saying this person is, you know, godly, or at least to be deified, it also amplified the limelight. People are more intensely looking at these people saying, you've been given all this wealth, I expect you to do good things with it, and if you fuck it up, we're gonna crucify you. Which is kind of like a savior complex. You know what they did with the Jesus thing? It's like, this guy's amazing, and then someone turned around and said, we don't like what you're doing, we're gonna crucify you. It's a weird analogy, but it works as well, but in a negative way with people like Epstein. You created these gods and then you wonder why they fall. It's strange. That's why I don't think people should accumulate that much wealth. It's strange. Unless you're going to do something really, really good with it. And if you do something really, really good with it, it's generally a case of you'll lose that wealth. And they're afraid of losing that wealth because they lose their position, they lose their sense of identity about who they are. It's like, I've worked my entire life to accumulate this amount of shit. Yeah, it's called hoarding. It's also a disorder. It is a disorder because then you become saturated in it. If you lose it, you start losing your fucking mind. At the moment, Trump's being done in courts because he overinflated the amount of value he had on a bunch of properties he was trying to sell, so it made it look like he was worth more. That's essentially lying in court. I think it's perjury or some shit like that, where, you know, said he was worth more in order to make people want to buy more. Because here's a man who's credible because he has accumulated much more wealth than we assumed. And he's got something like, I was looking at the article, I think he's been fined something like a quarter of his wealth. Just in a fine for lying to prospective buyers about the properties and things like that. That's a quarter of your wealth gone. Now that's got to have some kind of impact on your self-esteem, psychological side of things. He's already been bankrupt twice as well, so I don't know why anybody is trusting him with any kind of money situation. He's proven that he can't handle and sustain it. He can accumulate it, but he can't hold it. It's very Machiavellian. If you ever read The Prince, it's like you have to be able to hold the land if you do invade it. That was why the Roman Empire failed, because they spread too far too fast, and they lost ground because people just went, oh, I don't fucking like this, and went whoop, and flipped it. That's why it started to decline. That and a bunch of backstabbing and internal issues, which currently is what Russia is facing, funny enough. Have fun with that. That is the actual Roman Empire reinvented. That's the one. You've got to have a solid foundation to build an empire. You've got to have resources to manage it. You've got to have a benevolent spirit towards your people. You've got to be protective of your people. These are all leadership qualities that should have been there. If one of them is missing, there's more as well. If one of them is missing, it creates a hole in the chain breaks, a weakness in the chain. Chain mail. Let's say chain mail, because it's more like a network than it is a line. And the chain mail is protective of the people. So if you fuck that up by not having the resources, which is what Hamas has got at the moment, because the people who are the Palestinian people are complaining that they're not getting aid. Now they're expecting an external party like the UN to provide aid, when Hamas should be supplying it if they want that political position of holding control over the people. And they're not doing it. They're not got any resources to help those people. They're happy to walk in and take shit and break shit and assert dominance, but at the same time, in order to sustain it as a lifestyle for the people, it's just not there. It's not sustainable. They've got no resources backing them, and they might have acquired some resources by I say embezzling UN resources, which are like aid packages and stuff like that, but they can't hold that. They can't sustain those people. And while they've got the political ideology of having a particular set of values and stuff like that they want to influence the people with, if you don't support them and feed them and nurture them, they're not going to stay. They will form an uprising. And that happened time and time again in history, and people just fucking ignore it. And you're sitting there going, well, it'll work this time. It's like, what is the definition of stupidity? Banging your head against something hard and expecting different results repeatedly, Someone said that better. If you're wondering what that squeaking is, my seatbelt. I promise I'm not farting. Not today. My seatbelt. But that is the principle. It's like, if any of you bother to actually read the Machiavellian book, The Prince, you'd understand why your political structures are failing. It's done in satire. It's a piss take, essentially, of the princes who were essentially dictators at the time. But it holds true. I mean, for an external party, this guy was honestly just trying to suck ass in order to get position in court. But, it's realistic in what he's saying. It's a bit of stating the obvious at the time, but the people who were in position at the time, who were in positions of power, didn't want to recognize that these were traits and aspects of society which need to occur in order to perpetuate stability. Instead, they were just arrogant, rich assholes, which is what we're seeing a lot of today. A lot of arrogant, rich assholes trying to assert dominance through violence, and not following the basic principles of sustainability. And they're wondering why it doesn't work. It's like, because you're a dictator. People don't like pain. They tend to rail against it. And if you're not able to provide as a father figure, for example, if you're a male dominant thing, they're not going to stay, are they? It's like they're not going to want you as a leader. One thing that annoys me, for example, and is they keep calling Russia Mother Russia. I'm sitting there going, how is this a mother at all? Everybody's freezing, everyone's starving, you keep walking people into fights. This isn't very mothering or nurturing at all. At what time period did you lose that label and start torturing your own people? It's like, when did that happen? Oh God. I mean, I used to be fascinated by that kind of history side of things, because I liked the Romanovs at one point. because I like monarchies, essentially. That's one of my hyperfixations, is looking at political structures like monarchies, which is why I used to follow the British monarchy for a long time. And then when the Queen died and Philip died, I kind of got fed up of them because they're just a bunch of divas and little bitches. I got fed up. But there's no real politics there anymore. There's no more sustainability and trudging forward in spite of, you know, all this fucked up shit going on. And you know, it's just celebritism. They just want to be in the limelight all the time, and they're there for updates, and it's all personal gain. And I don't understand what the fuck their purpose actually is besides to take money and look pretty. And that bugs the fuck out of me, because I'm like, you are purposeless at this point. And I'm not one for republics, because I do believe in monarchies, but I think we should have monarchies with fucking standards that actually do good, not just bring attention to their own egos. It's like, I've opened this building, not that I actually contributed in any way to building it, funding it. Do I know anything about the topic? No, but I'm me, therefore I turned up, I opened a curtain, and therefore praise me for existing. You sit there and think, I would rather give the medal or whatever it is that you fuckers get to the doctor over there that actually did the job or works there. Or, you know, it's the functionalist of me, I think. It's like, if they serve no purpose, I have no reason for them to be. It's like, you're purposeless. Get out of my face. I don't support this. I mean, I know that the Queen was still riding off of the, you know, sort of glory of post-war era. And there was a bit of a fiddly moment in the 80s when, you know, Thatcherism kicked in. It was not a good time. It's not a good time. And she got a bit of strife through that. But at the same time, she was always persistent. It was never about her. It was always about the empire. It was always about business. It was about trudging forward and the people. These people seem to have turned everything on them now. It's like, what do I feel like in politics? And I'm wondering where it actually stemmed from. A bunch of spoiled people in that generation of things like Andrew, Charles, and Edward. I think Anne's the only one that doesn't make it about her. I mean, Edward's semi there. I think he's grown out of it because he did do that royal knockabout, wherever it is. I watched that. I loved it. It was silly, but I love silly things like Monty Python-esque kind of things. But Anne's the only one that seems to be fucking trudging on, getting on with it. So I think, honestly, she should have got the throne instead of Charles, because he's always made it about him. It's like, oh, my marriage and coffee enemas. Just be honest. You want to stick things in your bum, Charles? Just be honest. It's a very open community. You can talk about most things now. If you want to be honest, people probably understand why you want to do that. Architecture and elements. What biography could not include those? Strange. But that's the thing. It's like you're not looking at the realness of the situation that they take on. It's the fake side of things, the celebrity side of things. They're not leaders anymore. They're just overfunded materialistic divas. The Mariah Careys of the royal family. Same as Putin's the Mariah Carey of the political sphere in Russia. You know, Eurocentric politics, I should say. If they don't get their way, they have a tantrum and invade a country. You know, Hitler did that. Stupid. I don't like it. Aren't we all too old enough for this shit anyway? Shouldn't we have known that this isn't going to go anywhere? Realistically? Anyway, look, I was talking about... What was I talking about? Expensive taste. How do we get there? How do we get to that topic? I don't know. See, I've got on these fucking tangents. What to learn from this expensive taste? Live within your means. Because the worst thing you want to do is show off to the people around you how incompetent you are with money. And that's what happens when you go into things like credit card debt, buying big houses to fit in, keep up with the Joneses. All you're highlighting is your incompetence with money. You're financially inept, especially if it fails. You should be... No, my work ethic is pretty Protestant. You've got the Protestant work ethic, where it is saving up to buy. I work hard now so I can delay gratification in order to progress in life later. That is my sole thing. I suppose the alternative at the time would have been the Catholic work ethic, where you borrow and then you pay off later, which is like committing a sin and then apologizing for it afterwards, saying rosaries and all that kind of thing. Not that I'm dissing either side of the religious mindsets. It's just the way I remember it from sociological classes. is that one mindset is work now, save. The other is take now, ask for forgiveness afterwards. It's like an opposing thing. That's all I remember. And I don't remember much of my sociology classes, to be honest. My memory's fucked. I got a Protestant work ethic, which is the main one. It's only recently that the borrow now, pay back later has actually come into emphasis, particularly in westernized societies. I don't know what it is in eastern societies, but so there's no point borrowing on the assumption that you can pay back later, because you just don't know if you can. A lot of shit happens, and a lot of people go homeless because of fucked up situations that they didn't have any real control over. Maybe your marriage fails, maybe your house blows up, maybe you lose your job, maybe, you know, it's a whole bunch of shit. Like the economy falls out the arse because somebody decided to pick a fight in a war. You know, it's the oil situation. Don't even get me started on petrol prices and cost of living. It's like you don't, unless it's an absolute emergency, I guess. But then at the same time, you're still risking going further into debt by doing that. So there has to be like a line you can cross, or a line you can set where I'll say, it's okay to do this, it's not okay to do this. Like when I separated from my ex-husband, it was an emergency situation. I had no money, so I was living on my credit card. And I justified it saying, I know work is coming. I will eventually be able to pay this off. It will take more time. It will be a pain in the ass. It would take longer to pay this off than it would to have saved the money itself, but I have no access to it now. So I'm going to have to do this in order to get to just survive at this point. But in this case of now where I don't have the credit card debt, I am more inclined to work on the Protestant work ethic, where I'm really willing to save rather than rely on credit cards to pay it off. Because in the end, credit cards fuck up your credit score anyway, because they see it as a debt. They don't see it as, oh, you're being smart with your money, you're doing this to accumulate, you know, this. You can get a credit card with good credit score. They don't mind handing them out, but as soon as you go for anything like a house loan or a car loan, they're going to look at that and go, ooh, that's a liability. No, we won't give it to you. Which is bullshit, because even if you're paying regularly into this fucking thing, and it's no problem because it's always zeroed out, they're going to see it as a liability that you even have it. So you just, same as like the payday loans. Like I've been doing the paying for things at the moment. I've recently learned that even the paying for, which I know I can pay off by the end of 2 months or something like this, all piddly little amounts. It's never anything of substance. It's just a case of I don't want to pay it all now. I'll pay it off gradually in the next 2 months or so. But having said that, they still, they look at that like, no, because this is still a liability. You're still in debt to someone, and it's not us. So we're not going to accept this, and you need to either pay that off before you can do this, or, you know, work your way around it. And it's interesting. So you need to get an absolute clean slate before you apply for anything like a car or a house or anything like that, because they don't want any ties to any other potential debts. So the best way of moving forward, if you want to, if you want to progress with anything like house or property or anything like that, is just take on the Protestant work ethic, do the hard work, save. And there's lots of initiatives as well that things like banks and providers use to encourage people to do it that way rather than take on credit. You get credit card fees, for example. You get annual fees as well. You get transactional fees just for borrowing. Whereas if you're looking at savings accounts, for example, you're looking at accumulating interest. At the moment, I've got a savings account which is not only doing the annual savings, it's also doing bonus interest each month. So I'm getting, on top of whatever I've got, about $250 each month as a bonus just for not touching it. Now I've set up a direct debit of 5%, I wish, $5 each month to know that the next time they analyze the amount in that account, that it's at least $5 more than it was last month, and I can guarantee that I will get that bonus interest because I want to make sure that I keep perpetuating that $250, and it's going to grow exponentially as well because it's a cumulative roll-on effect with the snowballing. And that's one of the policy aspects. You read the contract, which you fucking should. No one does, but they do. They should. As long as I've got something like $1 over the previous amount of the previous month, I get that bonus. And I'm like, fucking yay, because I'm taking that. And I'm snowballing it at the moment. I'm going to be snowballing it for the next 6 months. Whatever I have, I'm just going to keep rolling into that account. And it's going to be a fairly sizable, decent chunk at the end when I want that project done and finalized. But there's so many people that just want the here and now, and they want to take that lifestyle on credit, and hopefully they can pay it off later, and that's where you fail. It's creating a false economy. It's not going to help anything. It also, communally in society, it fucks up the inflation rate as well. So I don't know why they keep doing that. There's a lot of people borrowing on merit and hoping they can pay it off later, and what it does is drives up demand, because people assume that they can get it now instead of waiting to pay for it. That's how you fuck up an economy. In the African countries, for example, they just printed more money. So they're going, that fucks up your economy. It's like, yes, but people wanted more money, so we made some more. It's like, that doesn't mean anything. It drops the value of your fucking money. It's like, why would you do that? Because people need to see this tangible things. Like, if I have lots of pieces of paper, therefore I have more. It's quantity over quality. It's like, no, now you just have lots of worthless pieces of paper. Well done. How much does a fucking bread loaf cost? 50 rand. It's like, no, that doesn't work. Actually, I think the rate is wrong there, because I think it's more expensive. So I'm going to have to look into the economy of South Africa a bit more again. But that was the point. It's like people thought they had more money because they physically had more money in hand. And the fact is that value that they had of money that they had in hand was actually worth fuck all, because it fucked up the balance of the other parts of the economy. It's like, it's the same with credit cards. Just because you have access to that amount of money doesn't mean that it's actually your fucking money. But the bank said it was my money. Yes, but reality says that you might lose your job in about a month and not be able to have access to that money. They don't think ahead. They just want to see that bling bling now. It's like, I bought a Lambo. It's like, it's not your Lambo. You're still paying it off. Fucking them. It's hilarious. It's horrible, but it's hilarious. It's horrible. So I would encourage people to live within their means. Definitely. Don't borrow an intention. I'm going to pay it back. It's like, it's an IOU to a bank, and banks are fucking hostile when it comes. They're worse than Centrelink. When it comes to paying back shit, they will come for your fucking blood. It's not a case of, I borrowed off my parents, and now I've got the inconvenience of them, having it over my head. It's like, you borrowed money from us, you need to pay it back soon. It's a case of, we're taking your house, we're taking your car, we're taking all this shit, because legally we can and we will, and if you don't like it, we will police enforce this. We've got all kinds of debtors come to your ass because you made a false promise that you were going to pay us back. So don't be stupid, save up. Honestly, I can't. I mean, how embarrassing is it to have people turn up on your doorstep? I lived in a lower SES area, and it was rampant. People come for their cars. People used to do insurance jobs where they would take out a loan for a car, and they get one of their friends to nick it and burn it, because then they could get the insurance money. I'm not saying who, but they do. It was one of the apartment blocks I used to live in. So one of their mates just dumped his car so it could conveniently go missing, because he couldn't make the payments anymore, and it fucked up his debt, and he filed a police report. I can't remember his name actually, so it's probably a good thing. Someone nicked it, and we found it on the highway burnt out, and we're like, it looked like someone stole your car, dude. I hope it was insured. It's like, it was insured. How convenient for you. I think that was like a Pajero or something too, so it was worth something, expensive compared to what I was driving around in the time. I just had a shitty ass Barina. I'm going, you borrowed against your intentions, man. you pumped yourself up hoping you could do this. I would have rather have saved the money, to be honest. It saves the embarrassment and all the hassle of, having to know a guy that can sort this out for you. Totally illegal. I can't even remember his name. I can't even remember what unit he lived in, but we just knew of this guy. Oh my god, please don't do that. You'll get in so much trouble. But it's fucked up. And that's the kind of shit that I grew up with. I'm like, it works. It's not exactly kosher, but it works. And he got his insurance money, and the loan disappeared. It wasn't a good look for the credit-wise, but he was cleared of this debt. So as long as you got a police report to back you up, which is lying to the cops is not a good idea either. So that'll fuck you up in the long term as well. As soon as someone finds out, I honestly can't remember the name. But I'm like, stop trying to get yourself out of a tight squeeze by fucking things up. Honestly, I'm surprised they would have got away with that. But that's kind of things. It's like, for once, living in a shithole area actually paid to someone's advantage. It's like, I'm gonna have to leave it there because I gotta go, and my kids are gonna be staring at me soon because the gates are starting to open. I'm supposed to be on duty, I think. Shit. Okay, so I'm gonna leave it there, and I hope you have a fantastic Monday. Please don't commit any crimes in order to have a lifestyle. That's probably not the best way to do things. And I will see you hopefully tomorrow.